Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert? Knowing the difference can actually change how you see yourself and your relationships once you're over 50. My last video on introverts after 50 sparked a little interest, but I think many people wanted to know the difference between extroverts and introverts, and does it really change as we get older? So Myers-Briggs estimates about a 50-50% split between introverts and extroverts globally. Other sources have a little bit of different information, but I just kind of went with the main one, which was by Myers-Briggs. And basically, the difference between extroverts and introverts is their energy source, what charges them. If you're an extrovert, your energy source comes from social interactions, external stimulation. You enjoy being around people. You thrive in larger groups. You prefer being the center of activity. Your communication style is more expressive. You may think out loud. You might speak quickly or think quickly on your feet. Those are extroverted characteristics. And your focus is outward on people, events, and those type of situations. And being in those situations, you find energy. You feel energized after those events and types of group situations. Now, if you're an introvert, your energy source is internal. Your social situations, you need more alone time. Maybe one-on-ones are good for you as an introvert. You prefer smaller groups, intimate settings, and you enjoy your solitude. Solitude is golden for you. You feel very charged when you can be alone with your thoughts, with your feelings, and that energizes you. Whereas when you're in groups, it kind of drains your energy and you feel like, I need to go and be alone so I can just recharge myself. I think that's a good way to differentiate between introverts and extroverts. Extroverts is external, introverts is internal. So your extroverts, external experiences, those are what wire you. Those are what give you energy. Introverts, internal or smaller groups, that gives you energy. Neither one is better than the other. They both are just different. And many introverts marry extroverts. Extroverts marry introverts. Introverts can marry introverts, and extroverts can marry extroverts. But a lot of times it is a mix and match, and it's kind of like a opposites attract. So there are a couple of myths about both introverts and extroverts. For instance, one myth about introverts is that introverts are shy. And that's not really true. Introversion has nothing to do with shyness. Shyness is more about anxiety, fear-based, where an introvert is just based on your energy and where you gain your energy source from. So while introverts can be shy, extroverts can also be shy. So it has nothing to do with being introverted. Extrovert myth is that extroverts are always confident, which obviously is not true. But a lot of people assume that because they're more outgoing, they're more in the mix of people, that they're confident. But a lot of very extroverted people may not really feel confident, because confidence has to do with the feeling of your own abilities. You feel sure of yourself and your abilities, that's confidence. And it doesn't have to do with a personality characteristic more than being extroverted. So if you're extrovert and you're confident, great, but it's not a characteristic of being extroverted, because a lot of introverts are very confident. Now, if you're someone that feels like you fall in the middle, perhaps sometimes you feel energized when you're in groups, but yet you also feel energized when you have your solitude. So sometimes you might crave one or the other, and you read the description of introverts and extroverts, and you find yourself in the middle thinking, wait a minute, I can see myself in both of those categories. And if that's true, and you kind of live your life in that introvert, extrovert, and you kind of flip and flop, you probably are more ambivert. And that is just basically where you have both traits. And there are a good number of people that do fall into this category. Sometimes it's later in life that they find they fall more ambivert. If they were more extrovert as in younger years, they might fall more ambivert as they get older. So one of the things I found very interesting when I was researching introverts versus extroverts is that as we age over 50, over 60, introverts tend to become a little more introverted, and extroverts also become a little more introverted, because extroverts, as they get older, find that smaller connections and fewer friendships mean more to them than being in groups and crowds and those type of things that maybe gave them a lot of energy when they were younger. It's not as quite as important when they get a little bit older. And introverts find that they're not making excuses. Like, for instance, I know for myself, as an introvert, when I was younger, I used to make a lot of excuses why I couldn't go to places just because I knew it was going to drain my energy. And I was like, I ain't going to that. And so I would make excuses. And now it's like, I don't need to make excuses. If I don't want to go to something because I know it's going to be like thousands of people there, I'm just not going, and it's okay. I don't have to explain myself. So I think it's becoming more comfortable with yourself as you become a little older. But I found it interesting that both introverts and extroverts get a little more introverted as they age. So as introverts and extroverts age, they do face a few challenges. For instance, introverts risk isolation because they become so comfortable being in solitude. You could miss out on some really special one-on-one connections and deep connections with people. And so we need to be around people at some point. Even if it's one or two people, we need to be around people. So I think that that's the risk and the challenge for introverts, that if you're already introverted, is that you can become too isolated and too much in solitude. Whereas for extroverts, they can also risk some loneliness and a risk of burnout when it comes to the larger groups, because they might feel like they no longer need that, and so they want to focus on maybe developing fewer relationships, fewer meaningful relationships, rather than being in the crowds and being in the groups. And you can feel a little lost in that if you're not careful and understanding how you actually are changing as you are getting a little older. You do become a little bit more introvert if you're already extroverted. And so understanding those changes and feeling comfortable with yourself in those changes is positive. And finding balance for both introverts and extroverts, that is the key. Balance is always the key. So whether you're introvert or extrovert, after 50, it's about leveraging your natural strengths. Don't change who you are, amplify it. I've dropped a link down below. It's a personality test. It's completely free. I've taken it multiple times. Maybe you've seen it around. You've taken it before too. But if you haven't taken it in a while, try taking it and see. If you took it when you were younger, try taking it. If you're a little older now, try taking it and see if it's changed at all, because mine changed for me a little bit. I took it when I was younger, and I took it again a couple of years ago, and it did seem to change a little bit. So I think it's interesting how it can change. For instance, I have a friend of mine who used to be extremely extrovert, but as she has gone into her 60s, she finds herself more ambivert, and she's fallen into that middle where she can, sure, I can go to groups and I can get a lot of energy from that and feel great coming home. But sometimes I need my solitude time, where that never was the case when she was younger. So it's very interesting how it can change as we get into our 50s and 60s and beyond. Life after 50 isn't about becoming something new or someone new. It's about honoring how you're wired and thriving with it. If this video resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I thank you for stopping by and watching. And until next time, I will talk to you in the comments, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.